Hello, my name is Central Strong.
My name is Caleb Culver.
And putting you on the side today. I do this every single week. I think this is the 9th or 10th week that I did this in a row. But to speak to one or two people at least every week about anti-bullying and how to help out with the cause and how to be their own kind of hero against bullying or anything that can help stop bullying in this community, yet this whole planet. I want to first thank you for your time. I really appreciate this. Some people kind of told me no, but I'm happy that you said yes to me. And first want to ask you, what is your definition of bullying?
I mean, I think bullying can take on a lot of forms. It can be mental. By that I mean people using, harsh words to make someone feel less than good or less than themselves. It can obviously take on the physical form, which is pretty obvious. Physical bullying. It can take on, social media bullying. I'm a little older. I'm 38, but when I was a kid, bullying was physical. Like, we didn't have the kind of bullying where you called people names or yelled at each other. That didn't really exist. It was more just people would pick on you physically. They might call you a name or something, but it wasn't through social media or through Snapchat. Those things didn't exist when I was in high school.
So bullying was even more harsher back then.
Back then, bullying was much more I would say it was 50 times more physical than it is now. I feel like bullying now is more
words.
More words and peer pressure and social things and all the apps that kids use these days. I'm kind of out of that loop. But when I was a kid, it was fist fights. It was kids getting shoved in lockers.
Yeah, I don't see that today. Thank God.
It was stuff like that. It wasn't because we didn't have these platforms. That Facebook didn't exist. Cell phones were just coming into the fray.
It sounded a lot tougher back then.
But it didn't happen to everyone. I went to a small school. It's also hard for me to relate to the situation that you may have gone through.
Because you've never been bullied, I'm assuming?
Well, not really based on my size.
Yeah. I'm
not a small person, 6'4", 250 now, but I've always been a big guy. And I went to a very small school, so bullying mainly was back then we had the jocks, the nerds. We had a bunch of, very specific classes that
stereotypes
people didn't mean to fall into. They just fell into it. You played a lot of sports, you were a jock. You did a lot of computer stuff, they thought you were a nerd. You did a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, they thought you were, a geek or whatever. But for the most part, there wasn't that much bullying. But when it did happen, it normally wasn't so much talk or so much email or so much, like social shaming. It was physical bullying, getting shoved in the hallway when you have your book bag and all your books get tossed everywhere. Or, it wasn't rampant. It wasn't like this happened every 15 minutes, every day, 5 days a week.
But when
it did happen, it was more physical than anything else. It wasn't, I feel like the way it is today, but it's hard for me to relate only because I'm so far removed from, at 38 years old, you don't really get bullied.
Yeah.
It doesn't really happen, you know what I'm saying? Other adults don't really bully other adults unless it's some kind of crazy beef involving something that I'll never get myself wrapped up in.
I feel.
Be it political or be it, over a girl or whatever. I'm not getting myself wrapped up in that. So, I guess all I can really lend to the conversation is what I saw when I was a kid, and this is a few decades ago, but I can see how through articles I read, television, just the news, how it's changed so much and how it's so much more just talking now. It's so much more social media now. It's so much more peer pressure now than it was when I was a kid.
Dang. Oh, wow. You're right. Well, that's a lot. Thank you for the explanation. The second question I had, do you know anyone who's facing it at the moment?
See, again, that's just because of my situation. I don't really, I commiserate with other adults. We don't really, at my age, I don't really know any people I know people that have gone through it. I know people I've tried to help when I was younger, not get picked on, or, hey man, leave him alone, or, hey, you don't need to be doing that, or this, that, and the other. But, at my age, it's not like I got a buddy of me calling me who's 35 and saying someone's picking on him at work, or someone,
Definitely.
And I don't see
it changes a lot with age.
Right, with age, it changes completely, so much, because you're just not...
People think you're bigger and smarter now, so they know.
Well, also, you just get more mature. For the most part, I'd say 80-90% of people just get more mature and realize that this solves nothing. And
it's stupid.
if you're gonna settle something, settle it with a conversation, with words,
other than doing something.
And I think a lot of it is just with youth. It's just young energy, and they just, they themselves have low self-confidence. They project that onto someone else to make themselves feel better.
Wow.
I think that's a lot of what goes on these days. But I can't really relate to it because I'm so far removed from places where I'd be bullied, like the gym or the high school, especially schools, or college or anything like that. I go to work, I go home, I go to the grocery store, and no one's shoved me down the cookie aisle at Meijer. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's not happening. Not to make light of it, but it's just at my age, it just doesn't happen anymore.
Wow. Well, that's perfect. Well, I'm going to ask you one question I haven't asked anyone else. What is your advice for anyone who's going through bullying? Like I said, this is a recording. This is a voice recording. It's not like we're getting a videotape, but I'm trying to spread it amongst social media so someone can be helped. Since a lot of the people I spoke before you were younger, and they kind of told me stuff because they've been bullied, friends been bullied. But since none of that is really in your atmosphere, which is awesome and amazing, most people will want that. Actually, I would want that myself.
I'm sure.
Well, what is your advice?
You see something, say something is kind of the thing that happened after 9/11, but it applies to a lot of situations. If you're being bullied, you need to let somebody know. I don't suggest trying to handle it on your own.
Yeah. People don't want to be called a snitch and all this retarded shit.
But there are avenues that you can go through that won't make you a snitch. You have counselors you can speak to.
That's not being a snitch.
You can speak to teachers after class. You can speak to your parents and your family. You can speak to your pastor. You can speak to whoever your spiritual person is. You can speak to older brothers, older sisters, older friends. Younger friends. But there's ways to let people know that this is happening to you, and you need help, and you'd like to know how to handle it without, as you said, being what we used to call a stool pigeon or a snitch.
That's not even being a snitch because you're defending yourself.
Exactly.
So when someone say that, they're just trying to manipulate someone to stop doing it.
Don't fall into the trap. When they're baiting you and they're calling you names or they're shoving you and they're trying to get you into something, don't let yourself get sucked into that. Step away, walk away. Who cares what names they're calling you when you're walking away? Just walk away. Trust me, that's going to work out way better than any of the other options you take. Walk away and talk to somebody. There's 100 people, not 100 literally, but there are tens of people you can talk to about things, be it whatever your social situation is, high school, college, if you're close to the church, whatever you need to do that will either give you at least peace of mind, or people that have been through it themselves maybe a little more recently than me that would be able to give you advice and tips on what they did to handle it.
Oh, wow.
Maybe talk to someone that's, your peer,
mom,
but just a little.
dad.
Yeah, of course, involve your parents in it because that's important.
Be the first people.
Of course, try to involve a guidance counselor in it. If it's a school, of course, and try to involve a teacher in it, or a teacher you trust, or a track coach, or a football coach, or whomever. But, also talk to people that are your age because they are going through the same thing, and maybe they've done
something that people haven't advised yet.
Right, they've gone through things that you're going through now, and they found ways to handle it in ways you never even considered to look at it. A whole different spectrum kind of thing.
Yeah, that is perfect, and you're right. That's, like I said, you're the first person to ask that because the other 7-8 people before you, they were a lot younger. They probably didn't have enough experience. They're probably didn't live life long enough to really give out the points you gave out. With all being said, you're right. Never be afraid to speak up. Never be afraid to say something or just walk away. People are going to talk crap whether you walk away or not. And you're right. It would be a lot smarter to walk off and tell someone. And ultimately, I want to say you gave out the best advice so far because I'm not going to lie, this is my longest talk. It was nearly 10 minutes. Most of my talks last the max at 5. Really, you gave the most insight, and everyone, whoever hears this, really needs to listen to the advice you pointed out because that could possibly change their life.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm happy to help.
For real, Caleb. You're an awesome guy. I want to say thank you for your time. Really, this means a lot, and thank you for helping making the change.
Cool deal, brother.
Cool deal.
Signing off.
Thank you.
Of course.